your knife is nice and sharp.
This is how you butcher a chicken.
If you feel that your knife is dull, please just don't grab this and start slapping it around. Myself or Chef Gray will help you. Since you guys have not used this tool before, please do not just grab it and start hacking away. If you're unfamiliar with how this is used, it's very easy to damage the meat. All right, everybody ready?
Yep.
All right, make sure you can see. If not, you can step right in here. There's plenty of room. All right. So this here is a boning knife. This is ideal for separating any kind of meat from the bone. We use it much differently than we would a chef knife. We don't necessarily do the whole, tip of the blade to the board to follow through. This one is more little short scraping motions with the tip of the blade. So it's very, very different. Here is my chicken. Okay, be careful, sometimes there's chicken juice inside, but when we hand them out, we try to drain it out in the box. So, when you are butchering your chicken, you want to make sure that it is the breast side up. The wings should be upside down like it's sun tanning, and the legs should be here. If it's the other way around, this is going to mess you up right away because you're going to be looking for the keel bone, and the keel bone's not there. So this way, wings facing upward. They're going to look like they're upside down, legs here, breastplate here. Okay? Now, we're going to do this first. The skin, just the skin, not the meat. Just the skin here attaching the breast from the leg. We're just going to gently glide our knife. So that creates more of a separation. It gives us a little more give when we are trying to break down the meat. That's it. You just want to cut that attached skin right there. And again, you're just gliding the knife. We're not trying to cut any meat yet. You just want to free that up. Okay? Now, this is the part people don't like. You're going to try to pull the leg and thigh, and you want to hear that joint kind of. So listen carefully.
Ew.
That was tricky. So see right here, you see that joint? You want to make sure that joint kind of comes right out. So now, I'm not sure what damn smooth this is, but now my legs and thighs are a little more free. Okay, you can do the same thing with the wings. It's not as easy because it's still attached to the chicken breast. So that might be easier later on. Alrighty, so now we're laying flat. In the center here, this is going to be a lot of feeling around with your hands. That's why we're wearing gloves. There's a bone right here. That's what we call the keel bone. So once you kind of find where that is, you're going to gently glide your blade just to break that skin. Notice what I'm doing. I'm just gliding it. And then you'll get a better idea of where your bone is. So you see this hard piece right here in the middle? That's your keel bone. So now that I've had that located, I'm going to take the tip of my blade and make these little kind of scraping or scratching motions. But I want to make sure I'm as close to that bone as possible because that means I'm going to have very little waste. I don't want to waste any of the meat. And eventually, I'll get there. You hear that?
Yep.
You want to hear the blade scraping against the bone. Little stroking motions. So see here, that's my bone there. I don't want to waste any of that meat. All the meat should be peeling to this side, and the bone should be bare on the right. But you want to hear that scrape. Very short little movements. My other hand is just securing the chicken or the tenderloin. I want to make sure it's really pulling away from the bone. Okay, get that skin out of. So you see what's happening here? Here's my keel bone. Here is the chicken breast and tenderloin just from the left side. The right side, we gotta go do the same thing in the opposite direction. But notice this side of the blade is not really going anywhere. I'm just using these really small scrapes with the tip of the blade. See how it's slowly pulling away? That's what we're looking for. If this skin is in the way, you can break it, just, you know, pull away from your body. And it's just short little scrapes. And it'll slowly start to break away. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Okay, obviously there's skin here. If that is in your way, you can always just carefully slice through it. Now is the tricky part. So now is really when you have to use your fingers and try to find those little cartilage joints that are going to be easier to cut through. So now we can kind of separate more. And you see this big white spot right here? It's hard, but it's not a bone, it's cartilage. So all you have to do is slightly, you gotta find right in between. So right where my finger is, and it's very hard to see. Right where my finger is, I'm right between two bones. So this joint right here is where I'm gonna put my knife. I'm gonna wedge it right in between. I know, the sound effects are wild.
Yeah.
So right in between those two bones is just cartilage, and that's much easier for me to separate. Dragging, dragging. And there I have my chicken breast and my chicken wing. Now, I know, this is a little yucky.
Yeah.
Now I want to separate the wing from the chicken breast. That same joint, you see this big white bone right here? I'm just gonna gently cut around that, and that is going to separate. Now notice I'm still doing these little stroking motions. There's no hacking. So here I have a full chicken wing, and here I have my chicken breast, and this smaller piece right here, this is the tenderloin. So when you have chicken tenders, that's what this is. I know, my favorite.
Yum.
Now I'm just feeling around for
Love
any
chicken
little
tenders.
pin bones, which I do have. Sometimes you get a little chunk of that wishbone. So I'm just gonna feel around, try to wiggle that out. Now any of the bones or the scraps, hold on to, because we're gonna make chicken stock. All right, so there's my chicken breast with the tenderloin intact. That's one. I'm now gonna do the same exact thing on the other side. Opposite side of the keel bone. You should see the bone. If this is still covered in meat, you lost a little bit of your tenderloin. So now same thing, just the opposite side of the bone. Little movements. You hear that scrape? Ooh, that was all my finger. See, don't work while distracted. I'm using these fingers to separate the meat from the bone, but I'm not pulling. We're not trying to rip it apart. You just want to create a little more space for your knife to get into and be able to separate. This is time consuming. I don't want you guys to get discouraged. That's why I wanted us in the kitchen sooner than later, because I want you to have a good amount of time to really focus and work on what you're doing. Scraping. Okay, separate that skin. Okay, still scraping. But notice this hand is pulling away, so the visual of where I need to put my knife is much clearer. Up top that I have to separate. just pull and you gotta wiggle the edge of your knife in there. Okay, so I'm pretty much separated. Now I gotta look for that joint once again. Right here, you see right there?
Yep.
So I get my finger in there, I can feel right where the two bones meet, and that is where I'm gonna wiggle my knife into. I wanna make sure not to lose any of this meat up top. See, just gently gliding right through that joint. Okay, beautiful. I do have that wishbone. Pop that out. Okay. The labor of love. All right, now once again, now I have my chicken breast and my wing. Right here, that big bone. It's very easy to see. Oh, wrong direction.
Oops.
I'm just gonna get my bone, or my boning knife right between that joint, cut right around it. Okay, chicken wing number 2, chicken breast and tenderloin, intact. Okay, now, I separated those joints earlier, right, for my legs and thighs. We're not gonna separate the leg from the thigh, we just do one big piece. This is much easier to remove than these pieces. Right here, see all that?
Ooh.
You're gonna cut right around that big bone. So it's just, again, that gliding motion. Gliding right through. See how gentle I'm working with this knife? A lot of students just kind of get intimidated and they start just really butchering in the worst way. So here is your leg and thigh 1. Same thing. Here's my joint right there. And I'm just gonna gently, that's a lot of chicken skin.
Ooh. No, bad.
Okay, let's focus on the demo, please. Okay, that's it. Leg and thigh 2. Now, this is your chicken carcass. There's going to be skin, but there should be little to no meat or bones on, no, it is a bone. There should be little to no meat on it. So there'll be skin, there'll